Second to respond because who is going to be speaking next?
Representative Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just 1 second to respond to that? Obviously, from some of the questions we're hearing from the Democrats, they care more about a lot of other countries than America. And we've seen that in their votes with the money they voted just to spend in Ukraine killing people. Thankfully, we have a president in Donald J. Trump who's going to help bring peace.
Maybe we could have regular order, Mr. Chairman?
Seems pretty regular to me. Representative Davidson is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for having this hearing. Ms. Lake, I want to let you know that Voice of America is just such an important part of Ohio's history. In Westchester, Ohio, we have Voice of America Park, and it recognizes the Voice of America Bethany Relay Station, which served as a key anchor to get the message that Voice of America was broadcasting, whether to Europe or South America, and Crosley Broadcasting's there. So I'd invite you and your team to come to Westchester, Ohio at some point and tour the museum, highlight the history of the Voice of America.
Of Ohio.
I think the values that Voice of America, put into action, really, and made known, America's values, are part of the story of victory in the Cold War. And in Munich earlier this year, Vice President Vance gave a speech expressing his fear that in Europe, these freedoms are under attack. The things that we fought to protect Europe from, we now see, speaking of sanctuary, we have people claiming asylum from the UK, from Germany, and from Poland in Hungary today. Mm-hmm. So they are protecting civil liberties for people that are being put in jail for memes in places like Germany and England. So, looking at widespread censorship online, you look at the values that seem under attack by the digital regulation in the European Union. Voice of America can still play an important role in the world. So unfortunately, we've seen our institutions that help defend democracy being wielded in some ways to undermine it, even within various administrations. So I think your reshaping of this institution is incredibly important. Unfortunately, revelations from Voice of America show the U.S. is not immune from actions to shape speech. A new iron curtain is falling over the West under the guise of censorship. If you have unapproved views on migration, vaccines, or election results, or any number of things, your freedoms can be taken away because the woke religion has its own heresy code. People are seeking to use components of our own government to enforce their political ideology. So, Ms. Lake, can you expand further on the bias which has USAGM has operated over the years?
I would love to. Actually, I wish I didn't have to. I wish that I could report to you that there was no bias, but there's been a lot of bias, and I've got just a few headlines here. This one says, Voice of America slants news, delays Biden's debate stumble story. Voice of America election news went from 1996 to 2020, went from balance to bias. Will Voice of America campaign video that they ran for Biden help him win Michigan? Why is Voice of America getting involved in politics? How about this one? Voice of America director Amanda Bennett resigned amid accusations of failing to stop China and Iran propaganda in VOA programs. And guess what? She was then hired back by Joe Biden to run the agency and nearly ran it into the ground. She's the one responsible for a $250 million 15-year lease in a swanky high-rise that they were going to put VOA in had I not stopped it. And this high-rise isn't even equipped to do broadcasting. That was going to cost the American taxpayer another $100 million at least. When are we going to start putting the American people first?
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. America's resources should advance America's interest, and thanks for being a good custodian of that. Reading in background for this, I was stunned to find that Voice of America's former associate editor for News Standards, Carol Grunsberg, directed staff to, quote, avoid calling Hamas and its members terrorists, in quotes. Why do you think Voice of America was hesitant to call Hamas and its members terrorists?
Because, as I've mentioned, there's a true bias going on. They're pushing an agenda, and they, in many cases, are opposed to whatever the policy of America is. And they have completely gone off the rails, and we need to get them back on the rails. And that's what we're doing. We're reducing the size of this. And in many ways, maybe the people reporting were actually okay with a terrorist attack like that.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting the concern on security risks. I mean, in your testimony, you discuss how many individuals have granted access to secure government facilities or IT systems via false Social Security numbers or other false credentials. It's especially disorienting to hear about large numbers of staff receiving clearances and access to sensitive material when House of Representatives can't even get clearances for some of our staff members. What steps are you taking to clean up the clearance rosters?
Well, right now we have a director of security who's doing an incredible job trying to clean up the mess. And one of the things we're doing is reducing the number of people who have security clearances. I think one of the members said, why does a reporter need a security clearance? I think it was the chairman who said that. And we went through and we are starting to weed out and pare down that list. We took all of the presidents of the various grantees. Those are not government employees. They all had top secret clearances, and we revoked that, and they cried like crazy when we did it, but there's no reason to have that. RFA, Radio Free Asia, asked our security director if we would build a SCIF in their facility. Why on earth would they need a SCIF? So
Yeah.
we're doing everything we can to try to get things back under control, but I think President Trump has the right idea. We need to eliminate this agency, find what's salvageable, and move it over to the Department of State.
Thank you so much for that clarity. And, you know, certainly we're not going to broadcast
Gentleman's
classified
time has
information.
expired.
So thank you for safeguarding it.
Chair now recognizes Representative Olszewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to